All right, Nick, let's talk about the Los Angeles Chargers coming in. We're getting very close. Hard Knocks is on the TVs nowadays. We got people coming into camp. We're starting to get into the season where we see guys start to show up because football right around the corner. People are starting getting their peak physical condition. We're starting to see how are guys going to play out this season. And there's one guy in particular who's really impressing, and it's not just some scrub on the team. He's impressing, I would say, probably the best player on the Chargers team. Let's get in the article, and we'll talk more about this on the other side. This is from SI.com. It says, one of the solid draft picks that they got later in the process was cornerback Tarheeb Still out of Maryland. Still impressed the Bolts during the pre-draft process, and they grabbed him in the 5th round at pick number 137. According to Daniel Popper of The Athletic, Still stood out during the spring to none other than Derwin James Jr. When asked if anyone made an impact, James said rookie 5th-round pick Tarheeb Still started to look more comfortable during mandatory minicamp in the second-to-last practice of the offseason program. Still had 3 passes defended, including an interception of Justin Herbert. Still had great instincts and ball skills. James specifically mentioned Still when asked if any young players had jumped out to him in the spring. I expect Still put some pressure on Taylor early in camp. Nick, this is probably as big of a compliment as you can get out of a guy like Derwin James. Like I said, we'll at least give him credit. Probably best defensive player on the Chargers, or one of the best, because, Bosa's there as well, and Khalil Mack. So they've got so many great players, but nonetheless, a compliment from Derwin James is huge for Still. Curious what your thoughts on this one are, but Chargers fans, in the comment section below, talking about great players. We're talking about guys who could really make the jump, at the secondary position. There's been a lot of great Chargers cornerbacks throughout history. Let us know who's your favorite in the comment section below. And while you're down there, check the description below the video to see our list of recommended reading for this summer. If you want to pick up one of the books that we love to read about the NFL, about the game of football, that really break it down, or maybe just about the history of the football as well, check out the description below the video. But Nick, what are your thoughts on the comments on Still?
So first of all, I want to give you credit for being the sole member of the Derwin James fan club, opening there with Derwin James being the best football player on the Chargers. I was like, well, Herbert and Slater and Bosa and Mack. So he did a nice little backpedal there. But look, I think it speaks to the talent of the Chargers, because when you hear the name Derwin James, you're like, good football player, incredibly talented, very physical guy, great presence on the team. And then you realize that he may be only the 2nd or 3rd best defender on this entire roster. That speaks to the talent level on the Chargers and how they are going to be a lot better this season under the leadership of Harbaugh. And it also speaks, by the way, to the talent level of Still and the fact he's impressing a lot of these guys. And we talked a lot about Tarheeb Still earlier this offseason, saying he was off to a good start. That momentum has continued, and it looks like he's set to break out and have an incredible camp for the Chargers and maybe even win significant playing time. I think he will, because if you look at Tarheeb Still entire collegiate career, all he does is get better with more exposure to talent. Let me give you an example of this. So when he first played Ohio State in 2021, young corner, Ohio State picked on him all game long. He gave up 165 receiving yards. The next time he played Ohio State, he gave up 42 receiving yards. He learned, he got better, he figured it out. Let's take 2022, when he played Indiana, one of his worst games of that season. He gave up 92 receiving yards. In 2023, last season, against the same team, he gave up 27. Still is a guy who learns. Still is a guy who is never just right at the same level. He's always getting better. He's always figuring it out. Seeing this kind of improvement, and you can track his entire collegiate career, he always seems to figure out his mistakes, correct them, and move on to the next thing. I think he's a gym rat. I think he's a film rat. I think he's incredibly coachable. And I think that's, by the way, why veteran star players like Derwin James here really are excited by him. Because in mini camps and OTAs before the pads come on, everybody looks like a great athlete, right? Because there's no reason not to fly around and be crazy, because you're not going to get hit. You're not going to get depleted. But the guys that can really impress the veterans, and we see this all the time, are the guys who are willing and able to learn, willing and able to pick up the defense, try new things, and execute on the field, not just with athleticism, but the understanding of the scheme as well. That's what I think will really separate Still from the rest of the competition. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if he beats out Jasir Taylor for being one of their key corners for the 2024 season.
Yeah, and I can have come to the conclusion Derwin James best safety, strong safety on the Chargers. So I think that is my final resting point there. But you look at the secondary for the Chargers. James, obviously a very good player. Gilman last year, he had an anomaly year. Will he repeat it? He had 3 really bad years up to that point. Can he repeat this success from last season? We're yet to be seen. Asante Samuel Jr., definitely a good corner. But outside of that, you look at the other 2 corners. Taylor, nothing to write home about when you look at Jasir Taylor. Or Christian Fulton really kind of has underperformed all throughout his career. Had the lowest grade of his career last year, 46.4 PFF grade. This secondary really needs some help. So a guy like Jaheeb Still can really come in here and add a lot of value, especially for a 5th round pick. This guy could really, really bump up this Chargers secondary room. You talk about toughness. You talk about guys who can really impress. And we look at, James giving the compliment here. And you say that's the way that these guys, once the pads come on, that's when you impress. And I think back to a story you hear about Rob Gronkowski on the Patriots, when early on in his career, they had him pull and come across the line like as fast as he could. But then Vince Wilfork, none other than him, came around the corner and he still went toe-to-toe, absolutely ran straight into him and got decleated. But that's when people knew, Gronk was a maniac. He was a tough character. No one was going to mess with that guy. So I think Still coming out, impressing, doing a lot of really great aggressive things. We're going to see him improve, and I'm thinking James's comments are the real deal. I expect to see Still break into the starting secondary.